Cut that. Welcome back to the Xavier's podcast. I'm putting positivity back into construction through honest conversations. My guest today is Ashlee Berry. Ashlee is the Executive Director of the ACT and Capital Region Property Council of Australia. Ashlee, how you going?
I'm very well, Xav. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Now, tell us about your job. What do you do at the Property Council and why are you so special?
Thank you. Apart from having the world's longest title, we need to shorten that or something. My role is to look after everyone in the property sector and advocate for change. So whereas that's my day job, you just get to do that for fun on the side. But everyone from, developers, planners, architects, builders, lawyers as well, we're about advocating for things that are going to make our region, our community and our industry just that little bit better.
Yep. So we've got a housing crisis at the moment. Building homes is pretty important.
Very important.
That'd be a big part of what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, it's twofold. So some of our members are in the resi space and obviously housing, just chronic shortages. We've got a supply problem. We need to do something about that, and I'm sure we'll talk about some of the ways that we can fix that. But on the other side, we've got our commercial property owners, so the landlords, the investors, the agents, the people that build and manage, all the buildings where people either live, work and shop.
Yeah. So a lot of money behind the people that you're working with.
A lot of
supporting.
Lot of money, a lot of risk for them as well, and a lot of good people behind what seems like a lot of money and a lot of wealth, but there's a lot of good people there too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you mentioned that helping out the community. I think that's a really big part of it, obviously, as well.
Yeah, if you look around our footy fields, our local charities, sporting organisations, and time again, you'll see the logos of local construction, local development companies who are giving back to the community. And I think that a lot of them do that without needing the recognition. They do it because they're part of the community. We've got a really good and strong local community here, so we need to keep supporting that.
We definitely do. And like sometimes you see the footy teams on the weekend, you're like, they could not get another sponsor on those jerseys, which I love. What brought you into the property advocacy world and policy reform? Where did that come from?
So I was working as a lawyer. Don't hold that against me. I call myself a reformed lawyer. Now I've seen the error of my ways. So I was working as a lawyer in a private firm, doing a lot of litigation. And to be honest, most of my clients were in the construction industry. And it was one of those sliding door moments. I was starting to think about, do I become a partner? Do I look out, at other opportunities? And I had a conversation with the MBA, and there was a role there that was part legal, part policy. And I thought, this is great. This is the best of both worlds. I can still keep my legal hat on, but get to do a little bit of everything. And so that was about 8 or 9 years ago now. I think it was a little while ago. And I started there and have been a little bit obsessed ever since.
Yeah, I remember seeing all the updates. You're very good on the updates. It was Ashlee Berry was a name that like stuck in my head. I'm like, what's going on there now? Here we go. So
yeah, I think that's a really good point though. There's only there's so much that we can do, but if we're not telling people what we're doing, then sometimes it just gets forgotten about, or other people don't get the chance to jump in and have their say or contribute. And I think it's really important that we share that collective knowledge and do the advocacy together, because our voices are stronger. When there's a lot of us.
Absolutely. And I've spoken about this before. Like I think as builders and in the construction industry, you sometimes just get your head so in the project and like, what's next on the project? What's coming up? Where are we going to be? What's going on? What's in the pipeline? And you forget that like there's people making laws and bringing in regulations that are going to seriously affect your day-to-day business. And if you're not paying attention to that stuff, then it can get really tricky, like it sort of is now.
Correct. And that's exactly right. I mean, the whole point of industry associations and what I do at Property Council is handle all of that government regulation and advocacy so that you guys can get on with the job that you love and that you want to do and supporting your business, rather than needing to worry about, as you said, how many regulations governments put in, which keeps increasing.
Well, the updates that you would provide, reading back through your things, was this is how it's going to affect you. And I think that was really important, the way that you got that through to builders and like essentially having a law background as well. Like law is like another language.
It really is. Yeah.
It is almost you have to be really on the ball with it, and it's similar to IT. Like you've got to know the language and the intent behind the language. So I think that having your skills and you coming across to the advocacy sort of space and policy reform space, I think it's really important that we have people like you pushing that forward.
Absolutely.
And it's obviously a passion of yours, right?
Oh, I love it. I mean, I loved being a lawyer, but there were parts of it that I found really frustrating. I'm not sure what's more difficult to deal with, the court system or ACT government and planning approvals and delays. The jury's out on that at the moment. But I like the variety that advocacy and the construction industry brings. So, one day we could be talking about planning, housing, then we can be talking about commercial buildings or taxes and things like that. For me, it's as well, I can make some change. Like that's, I don't know, it feels pretty important. It feels pretty cool that I actually get to influence policy and help try and make things just that little bit easier for everyone and get some better outcomes for the community. Whereas you don't really get that opportunity being a lawyer. You're very project focused, a bit like being a builder. You're focused on a case. So if you do that and then you need to move on to the next one, you don't get to have that big picture perspective.
Yeah, whereas the role you're in now is that you're actually able to follow that through, right? And I guess the unique position you're in too is you get to see that how it affects the community, how it affects the builder, how it affects the developer. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. The community is more because I'm interested in it. I live in Canberra. I want to make sure that that we're delivering things that will make Canberra even better for me, for my kids, for the next generation. I think that's where it comes from. It's a bit of a passion, but you get to see from go to woe. You get to be involved with the developers, with the builders, and I think engaging with community is really important.
Oh, definitely. And I think that was a big point of the rally for me because I was just finding the same frustration with clients essentially talking to me about why does it take so long, and I don't have the answer for them. Like,
Correct.
why is it so difficult? And I'm like, it shouldn't be.
And you're probably copying a bit of the brunt of that and going, come on, Zave, just get this through. Why can't you get this through? This is simple.
Yeah. Why don't you know all the rules?
Yeah.
And that for me, it's like, because they're changing all the time.
Yeah.
And there's more rules that are always coming in. And it's not, and that's the frustration. Like if you look up on that's the workboard over there, like every job up there has approvals sort of nearly next to it. And, some of those jobs for next week, I don't have building approval yet. So that's the difficulty I've faced. And yeah, I mean, can I do things better and can I make plans better and can I provide more information? Yeah, I can, but there's so much more. Like, why do I need to provide so much stuff?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's part of the frustration. That's how we sort of, reconnected at the start of the year with the rally for construction.
Absolutely. And, you hit the nail on the head is these things just take way too long. And I think we can do it. We can all do it better. And so it's a bit of a two-way conversation. I think industry, I'm sure, have got things that government would like industry to do better and do a little bit maybe more accurately. I'm not sure. We need to talk through that more with government. What can we do to make their lives just that little bit easier? But on the flip side, there's so much that government need to do to just stop the roadblocks and stop getting, industry getting different advice from different entities, going backwards and forwards. I mean, the amount of, we talk about red tape, but it's just death by 1,000 cuts at the moment.
It definitely is. And let's get right into this. Building approvals, red tape, and real change is the title I've got here.
Yep.
From your seat at the Property Council, what are the biggest obstacles Canberra faces right now in property and construction?
So it's absolutely approvals. So it's the planning system. And in terms of what the biggest issue is, for me, it's actually the perception about how bad our planning system is causing a lot of issues at the moment. So, and it's something I grapple with all the time because in my role, I need to call out the numbers for what they are. I need to say, this is appalling. We need to do better. But I get sick of being so negative all the time. I'm trying to find the positive in some of this, but it's a little bit hard at the moment. It's
It is a bit hard. Yeah.
so for me, it's the fact that you have so many entities, I think, all getting to have their seat at the table, all getting to make a call on development approvals, but they're essentially playing by different rules.
Mm.
And I feel like I bag out Icon and Evo time and time again, but the problem is they haven't caught up to the planning system that we've got now. They say it's outcomes based, which really should just mean that you're not looking at prescriptive things as much. You're looking at what's the benefit, what's the social benefit, the community benefit, all that side of things.
It's multifaceted.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as it should be, because that delivers or should deliver better outcomes for community.
Mm.
But when the utilities, environment, conservator, when they haven't caught up, transport, then we're left with a situation where planning technically are doing one thing and you've got everyone else doing something completely different. And so the poor developer, and I use that word like genuinely, the developers are caught in the middle and builders, but they're like, well, hang on, I'm changing this because so-and-so said I need to change it. But then you're telling me now that's not right and that doesn't comply with your rules. And what do I do?
It's a vicious cycle. And if you're finding this hard to follow along,
Yeah.
welcome to our world.
Correct. It's an absolute minefield. And so there's laws there is legislation that says the planning department can just overrule, but they don't do that because it's government and they're a little bit risk adverse. And there's probably consequences that will flow if they just start approving things and then Icon and Evo can't give approvals later on. Like that's not a great outcome either. We just need everyone to cut the BS, stop the squabbling, and almost just get in a room and say, right, we want to build X number of houses on this block of land. We've got the general approval. Let's talk through it. Let's workshop it. Let's get everyone in the room.
How do we make this happen?
Yeah. Absolutely. Instead of saying no, say no, but if you do it this way, it will get approved. And that doesn't happen at the moment. It's normally just a no, and we can't tell you. Yeah, pretty much. No, try again.
Yeah.
And keep coming back to us until we say yes.
Mm.
That's so inefficient.
It is. And I mean, the intent behind what the government is trying to do, I can see, all right? And every little bit of it, okay, I understand. But it's like, let's bring in all this red tape and then let's just work out how it all works on the other side of that. And that to me is, I guess, the frustrating part. It's like that's costing so many people so much money. And we're in a cost of living crisis, a housing crisis.
Yep.
We need to just get on and build these homes. And like there's these productivity commissions out there looking at productivity in construction. It's like we are spending so much time before we're even on site on the project,
The amount of money spent on consultants and reviews into productivity, if there's not an outcome, then I'm going to tear my hair out, and so will everyone, because we're doing the right things, but at the same time, nothing's changing. So we've got a new City and Environment Directorate as of last week here in the ACT, which will look after all the planning, all the transport. We've got development solutions that will be stood up at some point. It's a bit of a utopian type name.
Yeah.
But essentially, this development solutions department is supposed to be the concierge for industry. It's a one-stop shop that we'll be able to go to when we're having problems or even before the problems arise to try and help navigate this really complicated approval system. And it's a bit hard to critique it until we've really seen it in action, but jury's out.
Jury's out?
Yeah.
Look, at least they're listening, at least they're trying to do something. I mean, they've identified, hey, we do have a problem here. This is what we can do to fix it. This is our solution. Like, let's try this and move forward. So that's always a benefit, right?
You've got it made a really good point. It's not like we're saying here's a problem, and we've got government doing absolutely nothing about it. Are they doing it as quickly as what we'd like? No, but that's the nature of government. It's a big beast. It takes a bit of time to move things around, but they are doing something, and so they should be commended for that.
Yeah, and if we can go back to the approval process, and the problems with it there's too many chiefs at the table.
Yeah, but
and
no one wants to make the call though. They all think that
Yeah.
they're chiefs. They all want to have the title, but no one wants to take on that risk of making a call, because there will be times they get it wrong. But, there's calls that I make as a business leader. I'm sure there's calls that you've made as a business leader from time to time.
I'm perfect. So.
Sorry. Sorry, we'll exclude you from that.
I make a lot of poor decisions, as well.
But it's how you move on from that and how you deal with it. Everyone's going to get something wrong. So why can't we just accept that? No one's perfect except for you, of course. But, and move on from that. Go, right, we stuffed that one up, but it's been addressed now and we've learned from that. Let's move on.
On to the next one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and an example of that I can think of recently was, I think it's out in Coombs or Whitlam there, where they've got that park and there's no toilet there, and they were like,
correct,
we need to put a toilet there. So they went and put a toilet there. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
It's annoying that it took 18 months for them to put a toilet there, but we got it done and on we go.
Correct. I was one of the many people who took their kids there and then realised that there was no toilet there. But anyway, they fixed it. But you're right. And I think there were reasons for why they didn't put the toilet there. And then they went, oh, no, it's not going to work. So yeah, they can do it.
That's part of it. And being, I guess, crippled by the fear of making mistakes, you can't operate like that.
You can't.
You've got to let progress. You can't let progress stop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
correct. That fear of being perfect, you're never going to be perfect. You're never going to get it right 100% of the time. But you need to have almost that freedom to fail a little bit. We're not talking catastrophic problems like failures here, but they can get things wrong.
They can. And if you look down at Melbourne, that seems to happen down there all the time. Yeah. So we're in a much better spot in the ACT. And I feel like because we don't have all these little councils we deal with, we're in a unique position
absolutely
as a city to be able to really get stuff done really quickly. And, I've talked about how much I love Canberra, and I think we should be leading the charge in Australia, and we should have the best construction industry here. We should have the most houses. We should be putting up the best numbers. Like, this
absolutely.
This city's constantly awarded the best city to live in, and I don't want that to slip away. I think we come second every year, don't we?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but we'll claim it. Yeah. Claim it on a technicality or something.
Close enough.
Yeah.
But we're working hard to, I guess, keep the government accountable and try and minimise the roadblocks and get construction happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we're getting there to some extent. What worries me is whether we have left it a little bit too late, and now that perception of Canberra's too hard to do. It's too hard to do business there. I'll never get an approval. It's too expensive. It takes too long. All of those things. I don't think we've fallen off a cliff just yet, but we're getting pretty close. And if you look at our approvals for the financial year just gone, we're in the low 2000s. Still got June numbers to come, so I might jump up a little bit, but it's pretty dire. I mean, I was in high school the last time that they were this low, and that's 20 years ago. So it's pretty worrying, and it's all that apartment building and construction that's really dipped. So single res, pretty much the same. It's dipped a little bit, but essentially it's the apartment numbers that are causing that to fall off a cliff. And for me, that's worrying when land release, the government's agenda is clearly more of that multi-res, multi-unit type style. Do we have a problem? Do we have a problem there? If
big developers don't want to be building here because it's too difficult to build.
Correct. Yeah. That's what worries me. And if that's the only land that's being released by the government, or I think it's 90% of the land over the next couple of years will be that multi-unit res. And that doesn't mean all big towers in the sky. It's low density as well, but it's still not just a single house in a block.
Townhouses, duplexes, less townhouses.
Yeah, less town. Yeah, correct. Probably less duplexes too.
Yeah.
It's probably more of those, 6-story.
Yeah. That's the middle.
Not towers.
That's the missing middle they get talking about, right?
Yeah, I think. Well, missing middle, I think is up to about 3 or 4. But yeah, for me, it's worrying if we don't see that uptick pretty soon. I know just across a couple of projects, there's 10,000 homes essentially sitting on shelves that could be developed over the next few years, but it won't be if we don't fix the system.
Yeah, and I sort of mentioned this in the meeting we went to, that my business, I'm not building homes. I'm providing service to Canberrans through landscaping, decks, pergolas, extensions and so forth. But my business is experiencing all of the symptoms of a system that's not working.
That's
And,
it.
and I'm having a tough enough time absorbing the costs of all the extra hoops we're having to jump through. So why would a big construction company run the risk of waiting 2 years to build something, or
It
3 years or however long, you know?
I was asked the other day whether the approvals for decks, pergolas, for small extensions, granny flats, whether they were any better than the big high rises, and I said absolutely not. I mean, they might be coming through a little bit quicker on a strict time comparison, but given the complexity, they should be approved, without even uh, without those delays that we're seeing. And a lot of people are shocked, I think, about that. They think when we're talking about approvals, we're just banging on about the big sky rises, but it's not. It's everything across the board. And I've got members that are spending, is that they have to spend it, hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest to banks for holding costs every month.
And
It's just
it's just dead money.
it is
Like,
absolutely dead money.
and then I'm sitting there with my little $30,000 pergola that's been in a DA for 6 months, and I'm sitting there like, this is affecting no one, and like, yeah,
But if you like, if we not to flip the tables on you, but
Mm.
if we look at ACT Dex, if you've got a couple of projects that are delayed by that, and that's 30 or 40 grand, whether you're holding it or whether your clients are, but theoretically, that's stopping you from taking on more staff. That could be an extra staff member, or that could be another 100K into the community. Whereas instead, it's just sitting there. It's going to the banks. It's not being spent in our community, and that's what I get frustrated about, because it could be.
Absolutely. You're 100% right there. I look at it and I'm like, why are they wasting their time on this? Like,
Yeah,
I get there's one little rule in there and that's held it up. But yeah, anyway, like I get really frustrated at this, because they should be spending their time on these bigger projects with the 10,000 homes, or the new suburb that should be developed, or
correct.
these complex things that, they do need to take a bit of time to
Yeah.
consider. And what they consider in a DA, I think, from my view, is how is it going to impact, that suburb, or how is it going to
Yeah.
impact the people around there? Is it going to be a benefit? What's the design look like? All these kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
And
All really important things.
really important things, and that does take time. I can understand that, and I think that the answer is not hiring more people in there. It's, I guess, streamlining it, and I don't know. It doesn't seem clear, the set of guidelines either.
No, and one of the things that and I think you touched on this when we were at one of the government meetings, is we almost need government to be a bit more curious. So if something's not attached or it doesn't quite look right, don't just refuse it and send it back, or don't just ignore it. Pick up the phone or send a quick email and say, hey, this doesn't seem right. Do you have an updated drawing, or you've missed this off, or what? Just be curious. And we don't get that. I'm not sure if it's fear of whether it's a transparency issue, or whether it's a lack of awareness or skill from them. But there's that, for me, is missing, is that they're starting from a position of no when they really need to be starting on a position of yes. And if there are things that are stopping them from saying yes, then be proactive and say, I need this, I need that. You haven't given me this document, or this is in the wrong spot, whatever it is. Be curious and be prepared to say yes.
Yeah, it was one of the reforms that I put in was attitude shift, and it was like, the attitude currently is, how do we knock this back? Well, that's how I feel. Like,
Yeah.
and what the attitude should be is, hey, you're building something. That's awesome. Like, how do we get this going for you? You know what I mean? Like, and like, actually want to get stuff done. Like, it's your job to try and, like, I'm coming to get something approved, to build something
Yep.
for a client, or for, a whole heap of clients that are looking for a new home, or whatever the case may be. Like,
Yeah.
just that attitude shift of like, hey, let's do this, you know. But what I get when I'm talking to the DA team or the government is just like they've got a set of parameters. They're only allowed to say X, Y, or Z. It's got to be, it never seems like you provide enough information. you
Yeah.
know.
And what frustrates me is that, and it's old economic research now, but for every dollar spent in property construction, you get $3 return for the economy. And so what an amazing boost to the Canberra economy. I mean, I look at it and go, there's no wonder that retail businesses are doing it tough across Canberra. We see restaurants closing. That's because one of the biggest parts of our workforce and our economy is property and construction, and they're doing it tough at the moment because of approvals, taxes, more red tape. So they're not spending, and that's having that flow-on effect. We can't ignore that.
I definitely agree with you there. And like we keep talking about, oh, we've got a worker shortage. Like just before you walked in, I had a young guy come in and say, hey, I'm looking for a job. You know, this commercial company, they've sort of ran out of work. So I'm just going around handing out my resume. You know, like that doesn't happen when there's actually a shortage of staff. Like,
No, I've had a few conversations lately just on worker shortages, and I think the narrative's starting to change. We've told ourselves for a while we've got a worker shortage because we will have one at some point if we don't address pipeline issues, if we don't address making sure that kids when they're in school know that construction and property is a really good pathway. But I'm not sure we do really have that shortage at the moment. It's about that forward pipeline though.
Yeah, definitely. And when I think more about this whole situation, I'm like, maybe the government was trying to slow everyone down in construction to like make the work longer because they saw the economy running lean and we were going into a hard time. Like I don't know whether that's just a random opinion I came up with. It was like, why else would they do this, why else would they make things so much more difficult than they need to be? Because 4 years ago, it wasn't like this. 5 years ago, it wasn't like this. It wasn't as bad, I should say.
No, well, 4 or 5 years ago, we were getting 6,000 dwellings approved every year.
Yeah. And now what were the numbers again?
Bit over 2,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So depending on what June looks like,
with.
it might be, if it got up to 2.5, I'd be surprised. I suspect June will be pretty slim too. Yeah.
So there's 4,000 homes missing out of that number.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
It's where do we go to from there? I mean, we're not going to hit any of the targets that the government have set, which means then we don't have the homes, for people to move into. And it's not just about you or I wanting to go and buy a new home or build a new home. It's about attracting people to Canberra, and it's about affordability. And so, simple economics 101 is if you've got more supply, then prices won't continue to rise because if your supply outweighs your demand. And at the moment, it's not. And people have said to me a few times, oh, but there's so many houses on the market. Surely we don't have a supply problem. There's all these apartments on the market and things like that. But not all of them are ready to move into. So apartments are sold, before buildings are complete. So that's not quite true that we've got however many we do. But secondly, they're too expensive. And that's part of the problem. People can't afford them at the moment. So we've got, hospital workers, we've got AMBOs, cops who are on probably a pretty good wicket on average, and they can't afford to buy a standalone home here in Canberra. And
it shouldn't be like this.
Should not be like that. So
we have the land to release, don't we? We can do this. Like
we've got a stack of land. I mean, well, if you look at the Suburban Land Agency forecast for the next 4 to 5 years, they say they've got enough land for 20-something thousand, nearly 30,000 homes. And there's more land as well. So, the CSIRO site, which is located perfectly between Belconnen and Gungahlin, what a great spot for a new town centre. I mean, it's probably, in all honesty, 5 to 10 years away before they actually do all of the works. But yeah, we can do it. We can release the land. We should be releasing the land. And I mean, the cost of the land is a bit of a problem. So
That's the hardest part. Like they're setting the prices and
yeah, I mean when
they're only drip feeding it out, and it's a supply and demand situation.
yeah,
And for the people that have already bought land as well, that then if the government were to go out and release all this cheaper land, they'd be in a even more frustrating situation. So
absolutely. Government's got themselves in a bit of a pickle, in a prickly situation there. You're right, because if they do drop the price, then it devalues everyone else's, and they've got those issues. But when you're starting at over $500,000 for a block, before you even start looking at what sort of civil infrastructure you're going to need, because a lot of them, they're not flat, and so you need to do all of your site works and then add construction, you're not getting away with it for less than $1 million.
no. And if you do, I would be throwing flags up and saying, "Hey, what's going on with that build quality there?"
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a problem for people to get in. And I think we still have a bit of a culture shift to happen in Canberra in terms of people wanting to live in apartments. I don't think we're there yet. I think people still see the standalone home that they've built or that they've bought with their backyard. That's still what people initially want. And they're only going to apartments and townhouses because that's all they can afford. And so whether our perceptions, whether our desires change over time, I'm not sure. It's it's always been the great Aussie dream to have your own backyard, and
It has, and I feel like there's something rooted in Canberra in that it's a country town, ACT,
yeah,
we're the bush capital,
correct.
and these things, like there's that mindset there of Canberra, and like you look at the videos from the 70s and 80s and things like that, and there's just you look out through Woden Valley or Tuggeranong Valley, and there's all these new homes being created. So I think there's that idea in Canberra that it's a house on a block, and that's the type of living that you have here. When they brought all the public service here and they built Canberra up as a city, that was like the big selling point.
Yeah, you could own your own home, and it's different to Sydney. You can be within 5 to 10 minutes of the city and all those things. But times have changed. I'm just not sure our policy hasn't, or our people haven't caught up to our policy.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective, and I really didn't think about that until we just discussed that now.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think you're definitely right there. Maybe we need to have a little bit of a shift and bring in that higher residential zoning in the inner suburbs, to provide more homes, obviously,
yeah,
really quickly, and then look at the newer suburbs after that.
yep.
PACICERG. I want to
Yeah.
talk about that. The government's put together PACICERG. Now you know the acronym.
Well,
I've written it down incorrect.
but I do think I like your
Yeah.
your take on it. So my understanding of PACICERG is it's the Planning and Construction Industry Chief Executive Reference Group, PACICERG. Now it's been around for as long as I can remember. So it was around, I think, when I first started at MBA. Still around now. It did some great things and brought everyone together during COVID. So I remember sitting on daily meetings of PACICERG, getting the briefing when construction was shut down, and I try to forget about that because I had a 1-year-old that I was trying to look after at the same time. But I like your take on it, which is planning approvals and construction industry coordination and reform group. So maybe we'll have to.
Yeah.
There's a new directorate now, so maybe we'll have to talk to them about a new acronym.
It's a terrible acronym, but it's also a really good one in that you remember it because it's so long and weird to say.
And terrible.
Yeah, and terrible.
Yeah.
What exactly is PACICERG and why is it such a big deal for industry?
So it was always an opportunity for all of the executives or the chief executives of the industry that were dealing with the built environment. So Property Council, MBA, HIA, I think engineers were there. But it was a pretty…
Certifiers were there.
Certifiers, yeah. It was a pretty limited group. So it wasn't a cast of thousands. It was a really focused group on let's talk about policy, let's give feedback to government, let's get briefings on things, and let's talk through what do policy changes mean for industry. So it was often attended by the directorate staff. We'd get presentations in, and then from time to time the minister would attend as well. And, kudos to Chris Steele and his team, because I think he's been at nearly every meeting. Certainly since I started at Property Council, he's been at every PACICERG meeting, which is really helpful. And it's good for him to hear that feedback directly from industry, but also give us the insight into what the directorate is working on and what his expectations are. So essentially it's an industry group where government and industry can consult and talk through policy.
Yeah, well, it's a welcoming I don't know, shift, I guess. They want to listen and they want to take on feedback and see what's working and see what's not, talk about things that they can change and talk about things they're not going to change as well. And the reasons
Correct.
why. But
Yeah.
it's a good forum, I felt, to discuss.
You've got the right people in the room. And so I think for a few years, probably post-COVID, to be honest, it was a bit underutilized. And so meetings weren't as frequent, or they were, put in everyone's diary with only a week's notice. And you can imagine trying to shuffle things around. It didn't run as smoothly as what it has been probably the last 6 months. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, it was probably, the construction industry was probably running a bit better back then, was it?
Yeah, you're right. It probably was. We didn't have as many things to complain about, and everyone was so busy with work. And one of the things that I've noticed about our industry is when times are good, we can let bad policy slide a little bit, and we can say, oh, really, I don't agree with XYZ, or it's causing me issues, but I can deal with it because I'm busy, or I don't have time to deal with it is probably the other thing. But when things get a bit quiet, and when people need to tighten their belts, and when times start to get a bit tough, then that's when we need government to act quickly to support the industry. And maybe that's something that we can do better from an industry association perspective as well, is not forget the bad policy just when times are good, and still, make sure we really push hard for change, even if our members are saying, oh, it's all right, it'll be fine, it's not that big a deal, because at some point it might be.
It'll catch up to us in the long run. Yeah, you're 100% right. And thinking back about it, I remember when they were looking at bringing all these changes in, I was talking to certifiers and they're saying they're reviewing the Urban Forest Act and they're doing all of these things because of this and because of this. And I was like, oh, it can't be that bad. And then on the other side of it, we're waiting 7 weeks to see if we can pull a tree out and things like that. And I'm that it's disappointing, because I'm like, why when they had these conversations about this, like, what did they think the impact was going to be on the other side of it? And that's where I'm like, where's the logic in that?
No, and that's where things like PACICERG can be really useful, because we can say, maybe the intent of your policy we 100% agree with, for argument's sake. We think you're absolutely doing the right thing, but have you thought that implementing this policy now is going to cause all of these delays? And time means money. And so think about when we're in the middle of a housing crisis, or even if we're not, we shouldn't be adding thousands and thousands of dollars to the cost of people's homes. Just shouldn't be an issue. But for me, the forum is the opportunity for us to raise these things, and in person. That's what I like, that they're in person, everyone's there, and we can actually just talk through the real life consequences of, for example, there's new fees in place now. So when you close a road, when you're doing construction, you could be hit with thousands of dollars that's come in, and that's a new regulation, or new requirement. Who's paying for that?
Yeah.
Because builders don't necessarily have it in their contracts with their clients because they didn't expect it. So has the builder got to cop that, or where do we just find this money? Builders, developers aren't just an endless cash cow.
That's right. And more often than not, it's the homeowner and the person doing the construction work that'll pay for it in some way.
Correct.
And that's the disappointing part about it. And that's why I think that people that are thinking about construction, or that, around construction, they need to take more notice of the things that are going on, and they need to listen to people like yourself, Ashlee, that, are going to point that out and say, hey, that's a red flag there. That, that is going to increase construction. So,
Yeah.
and how do we reduce construction costs is the key, I think, to getting more homes built.
100%. And making sure that every Canberran or every future Canberran goes, well, I want XYZ as a house. And so, look, I can actually afford it. Or I don't need to save for 10 years to get a deposit. I can get in,
Cheaper.
I can get in cheaper and I can still get quality. This is not about, I've heard a bit of criticism. Industry associations, builders just want to be able to do everything quickly and of less quality, but that's not the case. We want to make sure that we are spending time on actually delivering quality and not paying, half of the construction cost to government in taxes, because that's what ends up getting paid.
Yeah, and that's what's happening at the moment. And if people understood that a little bit better, they might be able to go, well, we need to change that. Let's get behind these people in the industry and let's back them and let's put some change in.
Yeah.
Do you think PACICERG what does success look like for PACICERG?
So we've been talking about productivity quite a bit. For me, it's making PACICERG productive as well. So it's not just about us having, a big talk fest and having a whinge and then going away. It's about seeing some real change. And
It's got to be outcome based.
Absolutely. It has to be. So for me, it's that in being realistic, giving the new department 6 months to come in, but all of the feedback that we've been giving the minister, giving the directorate, I would have thought that within 6 months' time we need to see some real change. And if we haven't, then that means our feedback, the forum, it hasn't achieved its outcome or its desired purpose. And so that for me is sort of I'm giving it all till the end of the year. Things need time to settle in, but we need to see some real change by then. Otherwise, things are just going to keep getting worse.
That's right. And that, I mentioned in the meeting, like I said, we have the opportunity to do this now.
Yeah.
By the end of the year, if this isn't really there, then we're going to be in a world of hurt, because I like to put hope in the future. Where else can you put it?
We have to.
Rates hopefully are coming down today again.
Yes.
And hopefully they come down maybe 1 or 2 more times before the end of the year. And that's going to breed a bit more construction, a bit more positivity and confidence in the construction sector.
I hope so.
And people will start thinking about building again and construction. And once that ramps back up and those numbers go from 2,000, call it the floor at the moment, and they go all the way back up, then we're going to be in for a real bad time if there's these constant bottlenecks.
We need to do something. And you're right. I think we can, I don't want to say survive, but it's a bit like that. I think we can survive until the end of the year, provided we can see that gradual change from government. So it's getting this new department in, it's listening to us, it's making those changes to the Urban Forest Act, it's looking at all of the things that we've given feedback on and them going, all right, we'll fix that. We can make things a little bit easier. I don't know if they're going to be able to change the culture of that, changing it from a no to a yes within 6 months. But, there's a new head of department, City Environment Directorate. So maybe we can start to see, from my perspective, glass half full. If we can start to see the change, then that would be good. We don't need it to be perfect. We just need to start to see that shift.
Yeah, work with us because we want to work with you. And
absolutely. Well,
we can do this together.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
The question I've got here is, how does this all connect to Canberra's broader housing supply and affordability issues, PACICERG that is? Well, the easier that they can make things, and when I say easier, I mean they can streamline the process, they can, get on top of the bottlenecks, and they can make things easier.
Easier doesn't mean cutting corners.
No,
easier just means cutting out the BS and the unnecessary steps that aren't adding any value.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that people might think, well, if they make building approvals faster, then are they doing all the checks? And it's like, well, at the moment, like they can do most of the checks in a day if they want to.
Correct. If there was the will, like they've got the way. So for me, this all links together, because if we're getting approvals through quicker, so people can't even get through the pre-DA stage quickly. So this is before you even lodge something. because of bottlenecks with utilities and the like and transport. So they're not even lodging their DA because they can't get to a consensus agreement. They think, well, why am I going to spend thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars of finalising and actually lodging the DA if you're not going to work with me beforehand? It's just it's a waste of time. So if we can get that fixed, then we get more DAs lodged. We can get construction underway. Because it's still, to be honest, if you lodge a DA today, you're probably not going to have a new home for the best part of 2 years. Like, it's still going to take some time, but the more supply that we can add, costs will start to go down. Yep. And then that means that our teachers, our nurses, our cops have actually got somewhere to live.
Yeah, that's right. And fix is part of the problem, and we start from there and we keep going.
Correct.
If you could change one thing in our approval or planning system, what would it be?
To not have multiple entities that need to approve. So it doesn't mean that you don't still get buy-in, from Icon or from Evo or from Transport. And I use those three because they're the biggest three that most people need to interact with on every development. But it's about, if there was just one entity that you went to, you lodged all of your documents and then they gave you the tick or the cross, that would be incredible, rather than trying to corral however many and stuff around with them. And essentially you've got, however, let's just say 10 or 12, because I think that's what it is, sometimes more. They're all playing slightly different games or playing by slightly different rules. And that's really hard to navigate and manage. So if we can fix that, that's what I would do with my magic wand.
And to explain that to people that haven't done a building approval before or haven't had anything to do with approvals, you've got, say, for example, Icon, Evo. They're two of the big ones, and I'll mention those ones. If you get, say, knocked back from Icon and you need to change something on your plan to meet the requirements of Icon, you then need to resubmit that to Icon and to Evo.
Yep. And
that's the problem we're having. When you've got Icon, Evo, TCCS. Now, what is TCCS? Well, in your backyard, if you've got a stormwater easement or if you've got a manhole cover or something like that, you will need to get approval from TCCS to make sure that you're not interfering with their stuff and they can get access. So there's 3 people there I've just noted off the bat that I deal with regularly.
Yeah.
If you get knocked back from one of them, you got to start that process again, and that's where it can become very difficult.
That's a really good point. You've got to go back to everyone, because you change something slightly to appease one of them, and then it's like a house of cards. Then it's just a nightmare to navigate.
Yeah, and that they don't really talk to each other. These entities.
Not at all.
I know that there's a bit of a feud happening with Icon and tree protection.
Yes.
Where you're planting trees is important. And yeah. So this is the complexity, I guess, that we're talking about, and I think it demonstrates how the system is too complex.
Yeah.
And it demonstrates, why things are getting clogged up a little bit.
Absolutely.
Now, that last question I've got there was, are there places, right? Auckland seem to have it down packed, over in New Zealand.
Yeah.
They've got a 10-day turnaround for building approvals. It's like they turned around and gave themselves a kick in the ass and were like, we need to get some stuff done. Let's get it happening. Do you think we should follow that type of, so it can be done?
It can be done. I've looked into the Auckland system a little bit, and one of the things that I think we'll get a whole lot of pushback here in the ACT is though I do like it's very much just, we're approving this. One person, that's it. Cut out all of the BS and the people getting to chatter and change their minds about things. Not sure how that would work with ACT, with third-party appeal rights. The government and the community are very keen on keeping those to some extent. So practically, yes, go for Auckland. Realistically, is it going to work? Probably not. And would it get traction here? I'm not so sure. But we could take parts of it. I mean, we don't have to cut and copy. We can take the good parts of it. We could take the good parts of what we've seen in New South Wales with the Housing Delivery Task Force, I think I've got that right.
Yeah.
But they have fast-tracked approvals for significant projects. They've essentially taken some off councils as well, and they're getting them through. don't know if they're getting them through in 10 days. That's pretty impressive, but they're certainly getting them through quicker than what we've seen here. So for me, let's get the best of everything. You've said it earlier, we're a small jurisdiction, so we should be pretty nimble, pretty agile. We've only got one layer of government. Let's get the best of everything and just do it.
Let's rock and roll.
Yeah.
And it's not about cutting corners. It's not. I stress that so much.
It's absolutely not. But if you have someone dedicated and if you have got that idea of, no, I'm going to say yes, I'm not just going to say no, and I'm going to help someone get to a point of, well, no, this is what we need to do. This is a solution that works for both Icon, Evo, Transport, everyone. But that's all left to the developer to come up with. And there's moving goalposts, there's unclear. Yeah, I think having that one decision maker would be pretty cool though.
Definitely. And, get starts earlier, which brings down the costs, which brings back, the bigger guys that are building these, 10,000 homes and so on and so forth, and wanting to develop more here.
I mean, if your DA takes minimum 12 months, which is probably being generous, probably longer for some of these bigger projects, plus you've got your construction costs, let's just say that's 3 years where someone, from start to finish, before they can actually sell any of the houses or units, they're paying the mortgage and they're paying finance for that land for that entire time. And so just think about what that's doing to the cost of housing. If we can reduce not just our DA timeframes, but our construction timeframes, isn't that, for me, it's a no-brainer as a way that we can reduce the cost, because it's not lining the developers' pockets. It's not adding to their profit. In fact, theirs is probably getting eroded a little bit with interest rates and the like and holding costs. So if we can fix that, then we can try and bring down a bit of that housing affordability too.
Get roofs over people's heads. I think that's the end goal.
Absolutely. Needs to be.
I'm going to change it up a little bit. Now I want to talk about leadership and advocacy. What's your approach to pushing for change, especially when things are moving slowly or you're meeting resistance?
For me, it's explaining the problem. So I sometimes, and it's a good lesson for me, sometimes I feel like I can be a bit of a bull at the gate and just come to people with the solution, because I've been thinking about it for months in my head and I feel like I've got it. But sometimes you need to take a few steps back and realize that not everyone sees it through our eyes, as industry, but also sometimes the things that we're getting really upset about, people don't even know that it's a problem. So for me, it comes down to communication. It's a bit of a no-brainer there, but it's got to be good communication, be honest, show examples, and just talk through the problem. Mm-hmm. Problem, what is it? A problem shared is a problem halved. So
that's right. Yeah. And a problem well explained, you're halfway there to the solution.
That's it. So for me, it's about communication, and also acknowledging that this isn't just a one-way problem either. So there's things that industry can always do better and change, but we need that feedback too.
Yeah. And some of the regulation they brought in is to stop these big developers from doing the wrong thing and building these, really poorly constructed, developments. Sydney's been smashed with it. I think Melbourne's been smashed with it. And, I know that the government's put in that team to go out and certify those structures themselves. I think that's a good thing.
I think in terms of accountability, we, from a property council perspective, don't shy away from that. Everyone needs to be accountable for their role. And that starts from the top. I think we've got a few missing parts in the middle in terms of, trade contractors and things like that. But we need to be accountable. We're building things that, people are spending the most amount of money on that they'll probably ever spend in their lives. It's a huge investment. And so there's a real, not just moral obligation, but a legal obligation too, to make sure that people are getting a good quality product. And that's paramount for me.
Yeah, definitely. really frustrating when, buildings been condemned or there's a whole heap of works that need to be done to it. People are having to exit the buildings like that. You see it on a current affair regularly.
And it's bad for the industry. I mean, no one wants it. It makes us, everyone gets tarred with that same brush. I know a few years ago there was a leaflet drop, I think from one of the politicians about dodgy developers, and that doesn't help. And, when one or two people do something wrong, we should just call them out for that, rather than saying the entire industry is bad, because there's people that do the wrong thing in every industry, from government to builders, lawyers. So it's about calling them out, because, to be honest, the majority of people are doing really good work and providing a really good product.
Yeah.
It's about trying to make sure that, that's not sexy enough though to get on the front page of Canberra Times or a current affair. They want the bad stories, but we need to try and tell some of those good stories too.
We do, and that's part of this podcast, right?
Absolutely. Positivity.
We're trying here, and we're talking about problems to come up with solutions to put hope in the future to get stuff going.
Not sure how positive I've been today, but maybe there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, I think, as you said, a problem shared is a problem halved, and if people are listening to this and they've gone, I didn't realize it was that bad, and are people leaving Canberra to go and build elsewhere? Yes, they are. And
absolutely.
I'm sure you've had a couple of people tell you that, there's no way I want to be working here anymore. I know a couple of builders that are going, I'm just going down the coast. I'm going to be back in 12 months, see if things are any better.
Absolutely. I know builders that are maybe keeping one foot in Canberra because it's home for them, but they're doing more and more investment. We've seen it, Gold Coast. Brisbane is humming in the lead up to the election. So, not election, the Olympics. So, we need to do everything we can to keep that talent here and keep that investment and capital here, because it will go where, they think they're going to get the best return. And at the moment, Canberra's not it.
That's right. And then who comes in if they've left? Well, maybe people that aren't as experienced. Then we get situations that have happened in Sydney or Melbourne.
And people who don't have as much passion. One of the things that when I first started at Property Council, and we've got a board, and we sat around and talked about experience and passion for Canberra, and so many, the people in the industry born here, grown up here, and genuinely care about the places, the spaces that we're making. So they want it to be good. They don't just want to build a building to help their bank account. They think, oh, well, if I can do this, then this is a legacy, and people can use this space, and we can make our city world class and things like that. So I think that's pretty cool. Makes my job a bit challenging at times, because they're all very passionate.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's a good problem to have.
It is a good problem to have, and a lot of Canberrans are very very proud to be Canberran. And
yes.
Whenever I see a new development, something come up on Facebook or Instagram, you always have a heap of people underneath. This is the bush capital. We don't need this. We don't want this, and it's like that.
Yeah.
Bad news traveling around the world again before, hey, open your mind a little bit, like the stadium in Civic. I really want that to happen.
I was a big fan of a Civic stadium. I think the minister, we had a sporting infrastructure event a few weeks ago, and she pretty much said it's not happening in the city. It will be at Bruce. So yeah, dampened my hopes a little bit more. But then the discussion came to, well, do we even need a stadium? And I was like, absolutely, we do. I think it was even in the paper last week. Raiders CEO Don Ferner was talking about the benefits to the economy from having a really good world-class stadium. Seen it in Parramatta. We've seen
Townsville.
The Townsville Stadium's amazing.
Yeah.
And you look at the impact it has on the city, on the night, the nightlife, the restaurants, the precincts, but you can have everything there. We need to do something.
Yeah, and Canberra are good in the rugby league at the moment, so
I know.
Why not?
Well, so Townsville, the Cowboys won the grand final, and JT made a huge big song and dance about needing a new stadium up in Townsville, and they got a new stadium. So pressure's on. Raiders need to win.
They do.
And then we need to have a grand final call out for a new GIO stadium.
Do you know that they've rebuilt the Sydney Football Stadium twice since Bruce Stadium or Canberra Stadium was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
Even Leichhardt's getting
Yeah.
getting upgrades.
We just talked about. I want to talk about tough moments in advocacy or leadership and what you've learned from them. Like obviously getting told no stadium, that's a bit of a tough situation. Is there any other tough situations you've had to work through, and how did you deal with it?
I think it's so absolutely developer licensing is probably one of the most recent ones. So what it's doing is putting a license on developers similar to what builders have already, and I'll come back to why we didn't think that was a good thing. But it's not just putting a license on them; it's making them go and get these reports and show their economic viability. Again, could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, depending on what side of the fence you're looking at. But it's also putting a whole lot of personal liability on the directors of development companies and their office holders. And that's something completely new. And so Property Council has been, I think it's fair to say, was campaigning against it. And that was before my time. But it's something that the government were very set on. So it was part of their election commitment, and it seemed like there was just no chance that that was going away. And for me, again, it comes back to communication. And so we'll stand our ground and continue to say to government, well, we don't think that this is a good idea. So, maybe we do concede a few points because you've convinced us that something's a good idea, even if we didn't think it was at the start. So it's the communication from a government side of things, but it's also communication with members. And I think that's where my job can be the toughest, because you're speaking with members who are saying, what's going on here? You're supposed to be advocating for us. Why can't you get any change? And you go, well, because the government's made up their mind. I'm not magic. So that's been a bit tough, but I think I've managed that because of communication. One of and just thinking through something that was really challenging, but I think I've blocked it out of my mind, was back in COVID. So obviously construction got shut down, and that was heartbreaking for so many members who were going, hang on a sec, what do I do for the next however many weeks? Who knows when we're going to be back? And I mean, I was talking to government, I felt like multiple times a day, saying, here's what we can put in place, and builders are safe, and all of these things, and you're working outside. Why can't we do that? You shut construction down. That's the end of the economy. So much harder to get back. And then what government did was allow commercial construction back. I don't know if you remember that. And that was probably one of the hardest messages to deliver to industry, because
Didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense, but also it was one of those situations where members were kind of like, well, hang on, the smaller resi members, have you sold us out, to get commercial, to get the big end of town back on, but we think we're safer, what's going on? And so for a long time, I was at the NBA then, we'd been saying, no, you need to let everyone back. This can't be an us versus them. It should be everyone, and safeguards can get put in place across the board. But they went with their decision, and we had some pretty irate members to deal with. I was one of those times I was fortunate. I was 2IC and not and didn't have to take the tough calls. But it can be hard. But to me, it comes down to communication. So even when you've got to deliver those tough messages or really stand your ground, you can do it. You just have to communicate and do it honestly, with integrity and be respectful. I think there's no point coming out swinging at certain things. It doesn't. I'll be tough, but I'll play the ball, not the man.
Not the man.
Yeah,
I was one of those irate people.
Yeah, that's.
I'm more just frustrated. Like, I think it was just. I find it really difficult when there's no logic.
Correct.
There's no, there's It's like, no, we're just going to take that. It's like, why? It's like, well, that's what we want to do.
And it was perceptions that commercial builders had better systems in place than the smaller end of town, which they might have had some more sophisticated systems, but they've also got more people on site. So yeah, it just didn't add up. But
Yeah.
anyway,
You don't always win.
No,
you don't always
you
win.
don't always win. And I am someone who I struggle with that a little bit to start with, but not winning doesn't necessarily mean that you've been a failure, because you can't win everything. And especially when you're up against government who have been elected on a certain policy platform, they're not just going to do everything that I tell them. I mean, I'd love it if they did, but they're not going to, and that's the reality of it. So for me, it's about looking at the issues where I can really influence change and showing government why they should listen. So not just going, please do this because I'm going to whinge about it until you do, but here's the data, here's the economic data to back up what I'm whinging about.
Yeah, this will make you look good.
Correct.
And potentially get you re-elected if you listen to me, because I have a member base and people that, I can go back to and say, hey, we got this done and the government was receptive and here we go,
And it's probably about, you don't always have to be the public champion of things either. So sometimes diplomacy behind closed doors can be just as effective as being out there. For me, it's about getting that right balance. So you've got to be out there a little bit, calling things out publicly, but you don't have to have a fight through media.
Yeah.
That's just not effective.
How do you stay motivated when the challenges seem overwhelming?
Because I don't like to take no for an answer and I don't like to fail. Okay. So I'm stubborn.
Yeah.
And so I just keep going. And I'll just keep going.
That's the lawyer really coming through there.
It really is. It's the, overachieving type A personality who doesn't want to give up.
You've said no to that, but I'm going to change it slightly and come back to you.
Correct. Yep.
That's fantastic.
That's
fantastic. Never give up. You never lose.
Spot on.
Changing it again. The future, building a better ACT. Where do you want to see Canberra's property sector in the next 5 to 10 years?
I would love to not be talking about DA delays. I would love for us to have got through, let's call these teething problems, and for things to just work and be humming, and people complaining. We will always find, in business, you always find some things to complain about. But I would love it if people said, oh, it's so much easier to do business here than what it was 5 years ago. And again, easier not being lack of quality or cutting corners, but just things are smoother, things are easier, and people saying, I love doing business, I love building, I love investing here in Canberra. That to me is what we should be seeing.
That's a win, right?
Absolutely. Huge win.
What would real progress look like for you, the property council, and for the community?
I think getting, we talk about approvals, but that's probably one of the things, getting approvals back up so that we've got that housing supply coming in. But it's broader than that. So at the moment, I see our system and our rules as really rigid. And so they're stifling innovation, they're stifling good ideas that people might have. We've got a situation now where more and more offices are moving out of the city and they're moving to Barton, moving to the airport, or they just need less space because people are working from home and their office footprint requirements have changed. And so from a community perspective, we need to sort of nurture our city. I think it's really important that we have a vibrant city for a whole bunch of reasons, but we need to get innovative with that. So do we look at, old office buildings for housing? Do we look at, repurposing them to retirement living? Do we just look at different ways of developing our community? And I think that's something at the moment that gets held back a bit by red tape, regulation, planning. All of those things are stopping that sort of
the innovation, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Which is what we see out of good cities. Like that's what we see from good cities. They change, they adapt. The Canberra that we were 20 years ago is not going to be successful for today. So we do need to change and adapt. But I don't think our laws are quite there yet, and our tax settings certainly aren't there. There's no beneits in being innovative. You just get penalised with more taxes. So
yeah, And that
Yeah.
that stifles the
Yeah.
creativity.
So that's what I would like to see is that things are humming, approvals are better, but also we've got a bit more flexibility so people can innovate and do some really cool things.
That's a really good point. I didn't think about that very until you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Well, I was just thinking before as well, like, I know that I can deal with a couple of pain points in my business, 2 or 3, but when it's like everywhere, it's like, oh, why am I like, sometimes I think like, why am I trying so hard? Like I'm really working my guts out here and I just don't feel like
Yeah.
I'm getting anywhere and it's frustrating. And
And you're stressing and all of those things, and you see people start to go, why am I doing this? Like I got into this because it was something I loved to do, but I actually don't love it anymore because of all the stress and the pressure. So I'm going to close my business, or I'm going to sell it, or I'm going to downscale so I don't have the pressure of having employees and needing to pay them. I'm going to go and work for someone else, be a consultant, whatever it is. But you lose that, the amount of economic
the passion,
activity that you would bring from a business and employing guys. Yeah, I would love for that to just not be an issue.
me too.
Yeah.
And yeah, all those things you just mentioned have gone through my head. Like, and part of the reason why I started the third business, which is ACG Home Elevations, was
Mm.
that decks and pergolas and doing that as a business and having so many building approvals there, it's dying. Like it's not dying in the way that, it's just everything is slowing down.
Yeah.
It's getting more expensive. Clients get more frustrated. It's only small, and waiting 6 months for a $33,000 project, like, that's just difficult,
Correct.
and like I can build that in a week.
Yeah, that's it. Your building timeframes aren't the issue. It's the approvals.
Yeah. And yeah. And the next question I've got here is like, what's at stake if we get this next wave of reforms wrong or right? And I think if we get it wrong,
Economic collapse for the territory. I mean, you look at our budget at the moment, and it's pretty abysmal, I think you could say.
dire.
And if we don't start to get that economic activity humming, then it's only going to get worse, and people will start to leave. And so that's the the wrong side of things. If things just aren't working, that's what we'll say. People will leave the territory. People will, and not just go over the border to Gugong and still work here. They'll leave the Canberra region. And I think we see time and time again, especially Australia. I mean, I know we're a big country, but people will move
Where it's easier.
for greener pastures and where it's warmer. So we joke about Canberra climate, but
There seems to be a lot of people moving from Canberra to the Gold Coast, I've heard, and Queensland.
Correct.
I've had 2 staff members leave actually and go up there.
Wow.
So
Yeah, I think it's becoming more of a thing. So
definitely.
that's what happens if we get it wrong.
If we get it right,
Then we're thriving. Our population continues to grow, our economy booms, and you and I can just talk about how, the bad old times rather than complaining about the current times.
definitely.
Yeah.
And look, I do have to commend Chris Steele so far in that he is listening, but I think the time is now to make that change, and it has to happen now. And I really think that in the ACT, yes, we have a lot of public service here, but construction is the foundation of the economy.
Absolutely.
And we know that. I think Chris Steele has a good understanding that that's the case as well. And I think he's doing well to put it to the forefront and get on the front foot with it. And I hope that we can get some change happening and we can get some stuff moving forward.
Absolutely.
Inspiring the next generation.
Yeah.
Why should young people care about what you're doing in the planning and property reform sort of space? And like, how do we get more young people in and around the construction industry, I guess, is the real question.
I mean, in terms of the first part of your question, I don't know if young people will care about what I'm doing. I don't know what they care about. I feel very old at the moment after spending a few days with young 16-year-old girls at our Girls in Property Day.
Yeah.
But for me, it's about getting them into the industry, and that's just showing them the diverse range of roles that they can have, and whether it's girls or boys. So it's starting them young and not having any of that talk, which probably came through a little bit after me, but that, oh, you have to go to university. No, don't go and do a trade. You know, the kids who are no good at school, that's what they go and do. But if you're smart, you need to go to university. And I think, I don't know, my kids aren't old enough yet to have had that conversation, but I hope that that's changing. To me, it's showing them all of the different roles. So talking about it with young kids, encouraging them to consider a role in construction, in property, and getting into the schools really early. So, you know, some of the emergency services do it really, really well. So you see the fireys and the way that they engage with young kids. And so I've got two boys, and, you know, they are obsessed with either being a fireman, their dad's a policeman, so they think that's pretty cool too, because it's all the shiny things. But we need to make it shiny for young kids too, and I think we can. I mean, what a great thing. Hey, you can build a house, you can do this, you can do that. So my kids, when they've got no idea what I do, they wouldn't understand it. I've tried to explain it, and I think their eyes just glazed over and got excited that dad's a policeman and has lights and sirens. But, you know, I said to them, I talk about building houses, and I help to make things better to build houses, and they got that. And they loved it. They were like, "Oh, Mum, you're going to build houses." Oh, so let's go with that.
Yeah.
But for me, it's about encouraging them. We've just got to keep that conversation and make it easier for kids to get in at whenever they want, and make it, probably on the flip side, make it work for businesses to take the kids on. So I know, you know, in previous discussions I've had, trying to get apprentices on, just the paperwork, the cost for employers is sometimes prohibitive. So let's work through that and make it really easy to get kids in.
Yeah, barrier to entry, lower those, and get them going. Like I always sort of think, like, with the amount of cards you got to get now, can't you just do one course in one day, smash it all out, and away you go? You know, most of the time you finish by lunchtime anyway. Like, you could just bank them up. You do white card, asbestos, silica in one day.
Yeah.
On to the next. You know.
Correct. Yeah, there'll be another card soon, no doubt. Something, but that's it. Let's just, you know, smash them out. Make sure that kids know how to be safe, what to do, what not to do, and get them working.
That's right. Let's get rolling.
Yeah.
And bring back Bob the Builder, maybe.
Absolutely.
Sally the Builder, even.
Yeah.
And I think letting people. When I was at school, my careers advisor, I said to him I wanted to be a property developer, and he said, "Well, I think you should start out by doing a trade, because if you go from the ground up, you're going to be a much better, more well-rounded property developer. And if you want to be a builder, and you get all these tickets all the way,
It's
all
not
the way
bad.
along.
Not bad advice.
Yeah, well, I still haven't made it to be a property developer yet.
That's right. You've got time.
I'm not finished.
No, that's it. You haven't failed because you haven't finished yet.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. But inspiring the next generation is definitely lowering the barriers and just changing the mindset and understanding that this is a really good career.
Yeah.
In construction, and
That's what I do. Try and discourage the kids from being lawyers or emergency services, go into a trade.
Yeah. It's good foundation too.
Absolutely.
You can go and do something else afterwards. And to get into the fireys, I think, they do look favorably on people with a trade or have gone and done something.
Absolutely. Yeah. For me, it's you get to work on a range of different projects. I mean, I've seen some people, like the way that their careers have gone is phenomenal. So they've worked overseas, they've had that that adventure and work. They've been able to contribute to building some icons around Canberra. I mean, make fun of, I think, one of the superannuation funds ads when they're like, "Oh, I built that and I built that." But that's pretty cool. That's what
it is.
What mum or dad doesn't want to drive around and say to their kids, "I built that" or "I built that."
I do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's just about encouraging, when we're talking to our young kids, it's making sure that they know that it's a really good career.
Definitely.
Even with all the challenges that we've spoken about.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All right, we're onto the quick fire round now. Now it's never quick fire, so don't feel like you have to answer
Okay.
really quickly. What's one Canberra property / construction myth that you'd love to bust?
That all developers are bad, because they're not. Developers, the industry, we've spoken about it, but at the end of the day, they give so much back to the community. And I would love for just, a little bit of that to actually shine through.
Yeah, and maybe highlight some good property developers.
Absolutely. Yeah. Property council members.
Property council members, yeah.
Yeah.
Most inspiring leader or reformer that you've worked with?
That's a really tough one. I think, I worked with Michael Hopkins, former CEO of NBA, for quite some time. And so that's probably, one of the best relationships I've had in terms of learning from him. We're very, very different, but I think it worked. Watching him and the way that he went about advocacy to achieve certain things was pretty cool.
And how did he lead?
He led differently depending on the person and the situation, which I always found I can find that quite challenging, but it was good to just watch. And so he'd read the situation. Did he need to sit back and let other people, take control because they knew more about it, or they were more passionate, or they just needed to get something off their chest, which sometimes that's a really good thing about being a good leader, is sometimes you just need to let people have their rant and then you can actually move on. And then other times he'd be really forceful and he'd be like, no, this is what we need to do. And I think it's reading the situation and reading the people.
Yeah, right.
And
what do you think your leadership style is?
I would like to think it's a bit of that, reading the room, reading the situation, and going for it. I think I said earlier, I can be a bit of a bull at the gate and be a little bit stubborn, and I'm slowly working on that. But also that's just me. And so for me, it's about you've got to bring people on the journey, and you want, call this, you want your troops, essentially your team, to be right behind you. If you're going into battle on something, you want your team to feel inspired enough that, I'm running in straight after you. And so for me, it's setting clear goals. It's being open, being fair. I only have a team of one at the moment, so which has its benefits and challenges, but it's about being open, being honest, being approachable, but also being firm and fair. I think I had a discussion with someone the other day about being nice and being a pushover and being nice is not actually a good way to lead. But sometimes you do need to be a little bit compassionate, and you've got to get that balance right.
Can I add to that? You always seem to bring something to the table. Like you have
Thank you.
You're very knowledgeable, and you know the intricacies and the difficulties you know what you're talking about, and you know the challenges, and you can communicate those challenges. And I think that the way that you definitely lead is by explaining and by offering something up, whether it be a solution or.
Thank you.
Yeah. So keep doing. I really appreciate all the work you're doing, Ashlee.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate that.
We've already I've already asked this question, but one change you'd make to the ACT system if you had a magic wand, we've ticked that off.
One approval. Get rid of the entities. Yeah.
Entities. Best advice you've received?
For me, I don't know if I ever received this, but it's something I read, and it's to do with juggling and juggling competing priorities. So we're always going to have 100 balls in the air. That's just the way it is. And it was about only dropping the plastic ones. So to explain that, some of the balls in the air you've got, some are glass, some are plastic. So some matter, some don't really, or some will bounce if you drop them. And so catch the glass ones, let the plastic ones go, and don't beat yourself up too much if you do drop them.
That's a good one. I need to take that on board.
Yeah. I keep that in the back of my mind. Whether I actually practice that is completely different. Whether I listen to that advice is out.
It's good to have that in your pocket.
Yeah,
It's
correct.
okay not to meet everything all the time.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give to your younger self?
Probably that, and that you don't need to conquer the world yesterday, that you've got time. I probably at about 10 o'clock every night, I have this, I wouldn't call it existential dread, but I just have this feeling that I just need to get everything done ready for the morning. And so then I'll stay up till midnight and getting stuff done that really probably could wait till the morning. In fact, it absolutely could wait till the morning. And so that's something that I'm trying to work on, but I'm terrible at it. I don't have work-life balance. I have this weird integration of my work life comes into home and home comes into work. And, I sat on the floor with my kids on Sunday afternoon playing blocks and magnets, but my brain was racing with ideas for something. And so I'm there scribbling things and playing with them at the same time. And that is just how my brain works. And other people would look at that and go, "You're crazy." I probably am a little bit, but that is how my brain works. And so I remember a conversation with a junior lawyer once who I was mentoring, who made pretty big stuff up, and they were really upset. They were devastated that they'd done this. And I said to them, like, good, you're acknowledging it. Like, we're not just going to skip over the fact that you've made a mistake, but you're not a brain surgeon. Like, you haven't killed someone. Everything and your mistakes can all be fixed. It might be an insurance payout, but at the end of the day, it can be fixed. We're covered for this. Like, it is not the end of the world. It is not the end of your career. It's not even the end of someone else's life or career. It's just money, and it's money that's covered by insurance. So we don't want to make these mistakes, but it's not something for you to have an existential crisis over. I should probably take that advice at 10 o'clock at night every time.
But it's hard. I know exactly this feeling you're talking about. I used to have a notepad beside my bed. I had to get rid of that because I would stay up writing down ideas and things like that. And when it comes to you almost have this fear of, I'm in the zone right now. I need to get it out.
Absolutely.
And I'm on a roll here and I can think clearly. And it's like, I talk about being in the zone. And in that flow state. And it's hard.
So
it's really
hard.
difficult,
Yeah. And I'm getting better at putting the flow state on hold, because I've got to go pick up the kids or I've got to do dinner or whatever it is. But it's hard. It's still hard to switch your brain off.
Well, the next two questions are, what grounds you outside of work and what do you do to switch off and look after yourself?
Not enough is probably the first part. So I've got a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, 2 boys, very active. So it's really just entertaining them, but that's not so much for me. I mean, I get a little bit of joy out of chasing them around the zoo every Sunday afternoon and yelling at them to, not run too far ahead. But I mean, for me at the moment, in just where I'm at in life, to be honest, it's work and looking after the kids. And so if I can squeeze a little bit of me time in there.
Go get a coffee by yourself.
Yeah.
Decompress a little bit.
Yeah. I stay up late for that reason because it's quiet time. There's nowhere to be.
Just you.
Just me, normally sitting on the lounge watching sport or something, or I've started digging into ancestry, which is just it entertains me.
It's a rabbit hole.
But correct. But it doesn't let my brain switch off. It just makes my brain go crazier. So I'm not sure if that's probably not a chill thing to be doing.
We're still working on it, I think.
Correct. Still working on it.
Who deserves a shout out or should come on the podcast?
I think Chris Steele needs to come on the podcast. I mean, we've given him a shout out today. I think credit where credit's due. He's saying all the right things. He's putting things in place. But now we need to actually start seeing the results. But I think it'd be good to get him on. If you can.
Would be good to get him on.
Yep, I'll put in a good word.
Yeah. A few shout outs already.
Absolutely. Yeah. But, we've got some pretty phenomenal people in the industry. I saw you had Carly on, doing amazing, amazing things. You've got people like Joe Farrell, Mark Bauer.
Yeah.
So
there are, and I've got a lot of time to chat with all of them.
So. Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like you could be doing this for years and still not actually tap into all of the amazing people.
We have the ACT. That's right.
Correct. I look at, Phil O'Brien is another one.
Phil, good family friend. Yeah.
So we'll tap Phil on the shoulder as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Love Philly.
Yeah. So many people doing so many great things, and what an amazing way to shout them out.
Yeah, definitely.
And put them under a bit of heat for an hour and a half.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, lastly, just to wrap up here, where can people follow your work or connect with the Property Council?
Mainly LinkedIn is probably our
To be
go-to. Yep. But also we've got newsletters that are sent out generally every month, but sometimes a little bit more often if there's big news coming out.
Yep.
But if you head to propertycouncil.com.au, you can subscribe to everything.
Yeah, and become a member that you on the website there as well.
Please, absolutely.
Yeah. Jump in.
Always need more members.
Very finally, do you have a favorite quote or mantra that keeps you going? Is it the glass balls or is there something else?
I've got probably almost like a non-favorite quote that keeps me going. My mum got sick. She had brain cancer, and she kept saying it is what it is when she was sick, and it drove me nuts. And so I often hear it quite a bit about people go, oh, it is what it is. I hate it.
In your brain, I know what's coming.
In my brain, I'm like, no, it is not what it is. I'm going to bloody change it. Yeah. And so it's definitely not my favorite. I kind of cringe every time I hear it, but it's something that just triggers me to go, no, it's not. I'm going to bloody change that.
That's fantastic. I love that. Well done. And look, thank you so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed this conversation with you.
It's been great.
Actually. I feel like we've got so much more to talk about, and look, I'm hoping that some change comes into effect. Otherwise, we'll be back here again.
Correct.
Sooner rather than
we
later.
might need wine and beer rather than coffee.
It'll be a 4-hour podcast.
Yeah, correct.
We'll wrap it up there. Thanks, Rosa.
Thank you.